The number updates at 9:14 in the morning on a Tuesday. You are 30 years old, and you read it 3 times because your brain keeps filing it as a typo. 10 digits. More money than your family earned in 4 generations of standing on their feet on a concrete floor. You wait for the feeling. Everybody promised there would be a feeling. It does not come. So you set the phone face down on the counter. And then you walk down to the laundry room in the basement of your own building, and you stand there listening to a dryer turn, because somehow it is still the only sound in the world that has ever made you feel safe. And standing there, you understand something that genuinely scares you. You would trade the entire number, every digit of it, for the exact weight of a single roll of quarters in your hand. You just don't know yet why. You grow up inside the sound of it. A 24-hour coin laundromat off Blackstone Avenue in Fresno, 42 machines, and you do your homework on a folding table that smells like bleach and warm dryer sheets, while your little sister folds towels beside you and the whole room hums around you both like a thing that is alive and never sleeps. Your mom works the counter most nights, making change and watching the door. Money in your family is not an idea. It is a physical object. It comes in quarters, and the quarters get rolled into paper sleeves that hold exactly $10 each. And the sleeves get stacked in an old coffee tin that your dad carries to the Bank of America on Blackstone every Monday morning. You learn the weight of that tin before you learn long division. By the time you are 9, you can lift it off the shelf and call the day's take within $5, just from how it pulls at your wrist. You learn the rest of it the way you learn a language nobody admits they are teaching you. Machine 11 eats coins, so you tape a folded receipt over the slot. The dryers along the back wall run 20 degrees hotter, so those are the ones you quietly steer the good customers toward. Some people come in with a state card and a kind of careful dignity, and you learn, without anyone ever saying it out loud, that you do not look directly at what is in their basket. You are 8 the night the changer eats a woman's last $5. She has a toddler on her hip and a full load already soaking and no way to dry any of it, and she is not even angry. She is just standing there doing the math that has no good answer. Your dad walks over, opens his own wallet, and counts her $5 in quarters out of his pocket. He does not make a thing of it. He does not really even look at her while he does it. He just says the machine has been acting up and he is sorry, and he goes back to the wrench in his hand. You watch him do some version of that 100 times over the years. The man fixes every machine in that building himself, flat on his back on a wet concrete floor at midnight, because a service call costs $90, and $90 is 9 rolls of quarters, and 9 rolls of quarters is most of a slow Tuesday. There is no name for what your family is. You are not going hungry. The lights stay on. The rent gets paid the day it is due and not one day before. And nobody is getting evicted. But there is this low hum underneath everything, the exact same frequency as the machines, this constant background note of not quite enough. You grow up so used to it that you stop hearing it as a sound. It just becomes the air you breathe. And then the spring you turn 12, a new place opens 4 blocks down, bright sign, free Wi-Fi, card readers on every single machine so that nobody who walks in there ever has to carry a quarter again. That night, your dad starts staying an extra hour after closing, alone, doing math he will not say out loud. The lease comes up for renewal the year you turn 15, and the plaza's management company wants 40% more. Your dad has been in that unit for 19 years. He has fixed the plumbing the landlord was supposed to fix. He has shoveled the lot and chased off the people who broke in twice for the coin boxes. 19 years. And when he finally calls to negotiate the number down, he finds out the bright new chain 4 blocks down has already offered to pay the higher rent, and the management company would honestly rather have them than him. He does not fight it. That is the part that stays with you for the rest of your life. He comes home that night and he eats dinner. He watches the news. And then at some point, he gets up, takes the little folded square of cardboard he keeps in the kitchen drawer for exactly this, and wedges it back under the short leg of the kitchen table where it has worked loose again, because that table has rocked for as long as you have been alive, and tonight, of all the nights, is the night he decides to level it. Then he goes to bed. He does not raise his voice. He does not throw anything. He just accepts it, with the flat calm of a man who worked out a long time ago that the rules were written in rooms he was never going to be invited into. You are 15, and you watch him do this, and something opens in your chest. Not anger exactly, something colder than anger, something more useful, because you have been doing the math too, and the chain did not beat your father on machines, his machines run better. They did not beat him on service or hours or knowing every regular by their first name. They beat him on the card reader. They beat him on the one thing your family never learned. Not how to earn money or save money or hold money, but how to move it. The chain knew where the money went the instant it left a customer's hand. Your family only ever knew how to hold it, in quarters, in a coffee tin, half a pound at a time. You look at the rolls of quarters stacked on the counter, ready for the Monday bank run, and for the first time they do not look like money to you. They look like money that is stuck, money that cannot get anywhere, money standing in the exact same room your family has been standing in for 3 generations. And right there, at a table prop level with a folded piece of cardboard, you decide something. You do not tell a single person. You are going to find out where the doors are, the ones that open onto the rooms your father was never let into. You are going to learn how money actually moves. It does not feel like a turning point. It feels like a thought you have after dinner on a Tuesday. But it is the whole thing. Everything that happens after this is just that one thought, refusing to switch off. You never buy a single cup of coffee on campus. Not one in 4 years. You leave for Cal Poly at 18 on a Cal grant and $9,200 in loans. The first person in your family to go, and you pick a major your parents cannot even pronounce. Information systems. You tell your dad it is about how companies move money and information around. He nods slowly, like you have said something in a language he almost recognizes but can't quite place. The coffee thing is real. Freshman year, you do the math once on what a $4 coffee every morning compounds to across 4 years at a modest return, and that is the end of campus coffee forever. Your roommate decides you are cheap. You let him. Explaining the math would take longer than it is worth, and you are even less sure you could get through it without it coming out sounding like an accusation. You graduate straight into the first job that offers health insurance. A payments processing company in San Jose. $61,000 a year, a cubicle the color of oatmeal. Your entire job is the back end of transactions, the part the customer never sees, the plumbing between a card tap and a bank account. And about 4 months in, you notice something you cannot unnotice. You are reading the merchant statements the company sends its smallest clients. Liquor stores, taquerias, a couple of laundromats. And the rates they are being charged are buried under so many line items that no actual human being could ever parse them. Interchange, assessment, a tiered markup, a monthly minimum, a fee essentially for not understanding the fees. The advertised rate is 2.9%. The real rate, once you sit there with a calculator until 2 in the morning, is closer to 4.5. On a business clearing $40,000 a month, that gap is real money. That gap is somebody's rent. You stay late 3 nights running, taking the statements apart line by line, and what you find lands in your chest with a cold weight you recognize. The people getting skimmed the hardest are the smallest ones. The ones who can least afford a guy with a calculator. The ones exactly like your father. And then comes the part that turns something all the way over inside you. The bright chain that beat your dad, the one with the card readers, they were getting skimmed too. Just quietly. Just politely. Everybody below a certain size in that whole world was getting their pocket picked by the same hand, and almost none of them knew enough to even feel it. You start sketching, on the back of those very statements, what an honest version would look like. One rate, plain English. Same-day money. Built for the exact businesses every processor in that building openly called too small to bother with. At 24, you quit. You do not have a plan B. You have a sketch on the back of a stolen statement, $4,100, and a thought that will not switch off. 8 months later, the $4,100 is down to a number you check too often, and you have exactly one customer who still hasn't said yes. This is the first time you understand what fear actually feels like in the body, not the low hum from childhood. Something sharper than that. Something that lives behind your sternum and wakes you at 5 in the morning, and then just sits there breathing until the sun comes up. You take a contract gig fixing point-of-sale bugs for another company to cover rent, and you build your own thing at night and on weekends and on your lunch break. Sitting in your car because the office is too loud and your apartment has no air conditioning, and it is 104 degrees in the valley in July, and heat makes it impossible to think. You eat a lot of rice, not because you cannot afford anything else, because the mental energy of deciding what to eat feels like a luxury you cannot spare right now. The one customer is a laundromat owner in Modesto. Older guy. Accent like your dad's. Suspicious in the specific way men who have been burned are suspicious. You install your reader for free. You tell him if it does not clear his money faster, you will pull it out yourself. 3 days later, he calls you at 7 in the morning. His deposits hit same day for the first time in his life, not the usual 2 to 3 business day float the processors quietly sit on and earn interest against. Same day, and the rate is 1.4%, flat, printed in one single line he can actually read. He is almost crying on the phone. Over a percentage point. You sit in your car in the parking lot and you feel something land harder than any number ever has. That night, for the first time in years, the engine in your chest goes quiet, just for the one night. Then it starts again because the phone starts ringing. It turns out the man in Modesto talks to a man who owns a car wash, who talks to a cousin with 3 taquerias, who knows a woman with a nail salon and a sister running a check-cashing window. A whole economy that nobody on Sand Hill Road can even see, because none of them has ever once had to count a drawer of quarters at midnight. These owners do not sign with you because you outpitched anyone. They sign because you speak the language, because you know exactly what same-day money means to a person who has been floating payroll on a personal credit card. By year 3, you have 900 merchants, exactly 1 employee, and a product that works better than anything else on earth for the specific people nobody else ever built for. You raise a seed round, $1.1 million from a fund that finally returned an email. The wire hits your business account on a Thursday afternoon. You stare at it for a long time. It is more money than your father saw in a decade of midnights on a wet concrete floor. And it weighs nothing. You cannot feel it at all. You should be terrified by that. Instead, you just go back to work, and you tell yourself the feeling will come with a bigger number. You are wrong about that. You have no idea yet how wrong. Year 5. A partner bank freezes $3.2 million of your merchant's money on a Wednesday, and you have 72 hours before 1,400 small businesses miss payroll. It is a fraud flag, an automated one. Some risk model buried inside a processor you depend on decided that a sudden spike in your volume looked wrong, and it locked the funds while a compliance team 3 time zones away got around to reviewing it. The spike is not fraud. It is the first of the month. Every laundromat and car wash and taqueria in your entire network running rent day volume at the exact same time. The model has never had to count a drawer of quarters either. It does not know what the first of the month means to people like yours, but the model does not care, and the money is gone. And somewhere out there is a woman with a nail salon who is about to bounce 2 employees' paychecks because a server made a bad guess. You do not sleep for 3 days. You sit in a conference room you can barely afford and you call every person you have ever met. You put a lawyer on retainer you cannot actually pay yet. And when nothing moves fast enough, you do the one thing you swore you would never do. You take a bridge loan and you personally guarantee it against the company, against the apartment, against the next 10 years of your life, and you front the gap yourself so 1,400 drawers stay funded while a stranger clears a flag. The money releases at 1:09 in the morning on a Thursday. You do not celebrate. You sit in your car in the parking garage in the dark for a long time, and then you drive home. You make it home, and the person you have been with for 3 years is awake, and she is not angry. That is what makes it land. She is calm the same way your father was calm. She tells you that you were not present for any of the last 2 years, that she has been dating a man who lives inside a dashboard, that she kept waiting for the version of you that would show up on the other side of the next crisis, and that she has finally understood there is no other side. The crisis is just what you are now. She is right. You know she is right by the end of her first sentence. You do not have an argument, because building one would mean believing something you do not believe. You are 29. You take 2 days. You do not know what to do with the feeling, so you do the only thing you have ever known how to do with a feeling. You put it somewhere you cannot see it, and you go back to work. And on the Monday you go back, there is an email waiting. From a corporate development VP at a payments conglomerate out of Atlanta. Casual. Friendly. The kind of email written very carefully to sound like it isn't what it is. You have moved enough money by now to know exactly what it is. You wait 3 days to reply to the most important email of your life. Not because you are playing a game. Because you have learned, the hard way, that the first person to show urgency in a negotiation is the first person to lose ground in one. So you forward it to your attorney and write nothing back for 3 days. They have been watching you for 18 months. You find this out later. Tracking the one number nobody else in payments could touch. Your merchant retention. The big processors lose small businesses constantly. Because nobody at that scale ever bothered to be liked. Your merchants do not leave. Your merchants send their cousins. They could not build that in Atlanta if they spent a decade and $1 billion trying. And they know it. And that quiet fact is the entire reason the email exists. The process takes 5 months, 3 rounds of due diligence, 2 trips to Atlanta where everyone is unfailingly polite and you slowly understand that every warm sentence in the room is also a measurement being taken. There is a moment in a conference room on the 30th floor where their lead counsel raises a question about how some of your smallest merchants are classified. A regulatory wrinkle that, handled wrong, quietly unwinds the entire deal in a single afternoon. The temperature in the room changes. You can actually feel 6 years tilt on the edge of one man's sentence. You sit very still. You say very little. You let your attorney handle it because that is precisely what you are paying her for. And because you have finally learned the difference between silence that is hiding panic and silence that is not. And somewhere inside that stillness, you notice something strange about yourself. You are not performing composure anymore. At 24, you would have been performing it, white-knuckling under the table. You are not faking this. Somewhere in the last 6 years, between the parking lot and the parking garage and the 1:09 a.m. release and the woman who was right to leave, you actually built the thing you used to only imitate. The wrinkle gets handled. The deal survives. The final number is $2.4 billion. You write it down once on a legal pad just to see it in your own handwriting, and it still does not look like anything. It looks like a phone number. Some part of you keeps waiting for the part of your body that is supposed to react, and it stays perfectly quiet. And you choose not to think too hard yet about what that means. Your attorney calls you on a Wednesday evening to confirm the wire schedule. You write the date on a yellow post-it and stick it to the bottom edge of your monitor. Tuesday morning, a little after 9, give or take. You make pasta that night. You watch something you will not remember by morning. You go to sleep at 10:30 and you sleep fine. That part surprises you later when you have time to think about it. How easily you slept the night before the number that was supposed to be the answer to everything was finally going to arrive. Tuesday comes. You are at your desk at 9 in the morning, with a call scheduled for 10 that you have not canceled, because canceling it felt too much like tempting something. At 9:14, your account updates. You look at the number, 10 digits. And your brain does the exact thing it did when the seed round hit, and when the Series A hit, and when the first lowball offer came in at a figure that turned out to be an insult. It refuses to process the number as real. Only this time it is not 1.1 million or 30 million. This time it is $2.4 billion, and your mind simply does not have the architecture for it. There is no shelf to put it on. You set the phone face down. You stand up. And your feet take you down to the laundry room in the basement of your building before you have consciously decided anything? And you stand there and watch a stranger pull a load out of a dryer. He is fighting with a fitted sheet. He tries to fold it 3 different ways, cannot make the corners behave, and finally just balls it up and stuffs it in his basket and walks out. He has no idea what happened in an account 2 floors above his head. The building does not know. 4 blocks of city in every direction does not reorganize itself around the number that cleared at 9:14 on a Tuesday. It is completely, absolutely ordinary outside. You expected something, not confetti, not invincibility. Just some small signal from the universe that the distance you traveled was real, that the rice and the parking lot, and the 1:09 a.m. release, and the person you did not save all added up to something the world would acknowledge in some small, quiet way. The world does not acknowledge it. A dryer turns. You go back upstairs and you take the 10 o'clock call 2 minutes early. The Monday after, you sit across from 4 wealth managers in a room that smells like leather and climate control. All capital deployment and tax advantage structuring, very calm and very expensive. On the way out, one of them shakes your hand and tells you that you are remarkably grounded for someone in your position. You smile and thank him. You do not tell him that grounded is just another word for where you started. By February, you have a security protocol, a PR firm on retainer, and an assistant who runs a calendar so dense that your own mother needs 2 days' notice to get 30 minutes with you. You are living inside a structure built to protect you, and it does. It also makes you feel, on certain Tuesday mornings, like a valuable object being kept in a very secure location. You fly home for Thanksgiving, and at some point you watch your father, who has not owned a laundromat in years, carry an old coffee tin of quarters out to the car to take to a Bank of America branch that closed in 2019, out of habit. Out of 40 years of muscle memory that does not know the building is gone. You have to look out the window for a second. You could end every money worry he will ever have with one phone call before dinner. You have done the math 100 times, and you do not make the call because you understand, in a way that is almost impossible to explain to anyone who hasn't lived it, that money given wrong does not just help. It rearranges what a person is to you, and what you are to them. And you are terrified of losing the version of your father that existed before any of this cleared. So you pay for the groceries, just the groceries. And he says you did not have to do that. And you say it is nothing. And you both know it is not nothing. And neither of you says another word about it. In January, you buy a house outside Sonoma. Not a compound, not a statement. Just a house with a porch and a yard and enough distance from the calendar and the PR firm and the 4 wealth managers that you think, maybe, you can finally breathe at a normal rate. You take morning walks. You read books that have nothing to do with payments or merchant retention. You sleep 8 hours for the first time in what feels like a decade, because it probably has been a decade. You cook breakfast on Tuesdays. You sit on the porch in the afternoon and watch the light move across the hills, and you think, okay, this is the other side. This is the part where it finally goes quiet. The quiet lasts about 6 weeks. Nothing dramatic happens. That is the whole thing. It is that one morning over coffee with the laptop closed and nowhere on earth to be. You notice your mind is already running, already scanning, already hunting for the inefficiency, the gap, the thing nobody else is paying attention to yet. You have not opened a screen. You are just sitting on a porch in the sun, and the engine is running anyway, idling at a frequency you have had for so long that you stopped hearing it as a sound. The same way you stopped hearing the hum of 42 machines on Blackstone Avenue 30 years ago. And sitting there, you finally understand the thing you have been circling your entire life. The engine was never about the money. The money was only ever the metric, the proof that the engine was working. But the engine itself was built much earlier, at a folding table that smelled like bleach. The night you watched your father wedge a piece of cardboard under a table leg and accept a defeat the system handed him like it was weather. You solved the money problem completely, at a scale the 15-year-old at that table could not have pictured. But the engine that drove you there was never running on the money problem. It was running on something older, something that does not check your account balance, something that does not know the wire cleared. So you go back to work, not because you have to, because the alternative is sitting still with an engine that has no load on it, and that turns out to be its own kind of unbearable. But something is different now, and it takes you a while to name it. What is different is who starts where. Your sister's 2 kids, the niece with your exact stubborn jaw, they will grow up never knowing the weight of a coffee tin. Your own kids, if you have them, will begin their lives at the place it took you 30 years and everything you had to reach. The ceiling your family ran into for 3 generations is their floor now. They will look up at an open sky and assume that is simply how the sky has always looked. They will never know the ceiling was there, because you turned it into the ground under their feet. That is not a small thing. That is the whole thing. You keep 1 roll of quarters in the top drawer of your desk. You do not entirely know why you started, and you cannot stop. Some mornings you take it out and hold it. $10, 8 ounces, half a pound. The entire economy of your childhood, the unit your father rolled by hand every Sunday night, the weight you could read off a coffee tin at 9 years old. And you understand, holding it, that the $2.4 billion that cleared at 9:14 on a Tuesday weighs nothing. It will always weigh nothing. It is a number on a screen with no shelf to sit on, and it will never feel like this small, heavy thing in your palm. That was the price of the ticket. You paid it across a decade, in rice and parking lots and a person who was right to leave, in ordinary Tuesdays that nobody will ever name or thank you for. Your kids will not pay that price. That was the entire point. But here, on a porch, with nowhere to be, and the roll of quarters slowly warming in your hand, the engine is still running, still scanning, still looking for the next door. You gave them the open sky. You just don't know yet who you are without the ceiling. If this story stayed with you, like and subscribe for more.